significant anniversary today, which feels right given what's just happened. It's 3 years of Kieran McKenna at Ipswich Town. And I know you haven't been here for the whole 3 years, AJ, but clearly someone who follows football intently and knows all the storylines. You'll know that what he's done since he's come in has been nothing short, friend, of remarkable.
Yeah, I'm really gutted that we missed the 3-year anniversary of Barrow away. That should have been celebrated much more than it was. From McKenna's perspective, I mean, that there isn't a better job that has been done in English football in the last at least 5 years, I think. You look through other good jobs, there's plenty of really good management jobs. I mean, even recently you think of Ruben Sellers or Rob Edwards and people like that have done well, but to get a club where he just missed out on the playoffs in his first season. That wasn't a full season, obviously, it was a half season. And from there, to have constant progression in an industry where it's so easy to judge someone quickly, where you can be the best manager in the world and suddenly a defeat means that you're not. A defeat means that you're rubbish, and a run of defeats means that you're going to get sacked. It can change so quickly. To have constant progression over an extended period of time at a club that has not known constant progression pretty much at all for this decade, I'd say, is nothing short of remarkable. It makes him obviously one of the best managers in this country, I'd say. Definitely one of the best young managers in this country. The fact that it's not just about what he does on the pitch, and there's so much good stuff in terms of the tactics and the ideas that he has about football, that the person that he is off it as well, I think is important to recognise. For starters, someone that's turned down approaches from quote unquote bigger clubs multiple times in the last few years. Someone who you see doing a lot of charity work and popping up at a lot of different places to meet people and spread awareness and do stuff like that. Someone who's down to earth, makes a lot of time for anyone. Yeah, it's about being a good manager and establishing your reputation at a club for being successful, but it's also about the off the pitch stuff as well. And Kieran McKenna, in that sense, I think has ticked every single box since he's been at Ipswich Town, and there aren't many managers in the Football League that can do something like that.
It truly is staggering, mate, when you consider just how far Town have come since McKenna come in. I mean, it was bad, really bad, when Paul Cook got sacked. There was a terrible night at Charlton where it ended with Toto Nsiala arguing with the fans, and we had what's his name, Bloomers, one of the KOA posse, post-match there, kind of combusting because of the state of the football club and what had happened on the pitch. And then, of course, we had that horrible night at Barrow. I think actually was the day before McKenna was appointed. They went and lost at Barrow, which was dreadful, appalling. And I've made mention quite a few times of, Cameron Burgess really struggling in that game, for example. So McKenna comes in, and you have to remember, this was a huge gamble from Mark Ashton. No one had really ever heard of Kieran McKenna. Certainly when he was started linked with the job, we were like, who's that guy? Obviously assistant manager at Man United. All we could really get in terms of, because he's never been a manager, so we didn't know what sort of football he played. All we could get out of people at Man United was he had a reputation for being a bit of a school teacher vibe, quite a serious individual. And clearly, I guess you could say that's come to fruition, but he's the best type of school teacher. He's not boring. You will do it this way because I'm in charge. He's very much a kind of inspirational, progressive sort of teacher, isn't he? Who gets people fired up and loving what they're doing. So from that point of view, for Ashton to make that appointment and then it to come off in such a way, I don't think anyone could have foreseen this 3 years ago. I mean, it's to go from where the club were then to where they are now. It truly is just extraordinary.
Have you gone through ever? Well, this comes up a lot, but like the replies on Twitter to the initial announcement.
Yeah,
see Man United fans saying, "Oh, you're screwed. He's rubbish, clueless," and there was a genuine belief, to be honest, because of where Manchester United were at that point. And I remember there were times where he was kind of being kept on through different managers, and Man United fans saying, "Why is he being kept on? He's rubbish. He's clearly part of the problem." And I think that the Man United experience for him has been a huge thing. Obviously, it gets spoken about a lot, but a colossal club to work at, but also a learning curve. He probably wasn't perfect at Man United. There were ways that he came in there and maybe didn't do things the way that he should have done. And it's good that the club have been able to give him a platform to do that and to get it right. I think it's good that he's been able to have control of who he wants in the building to make sure that there aren't any egos. Like I'm sure there were millions of at Manchester United. And yeah, it's all combined into an environment where he's been able to get it right. And he obviously deserves huge credit for what he's done, what he's been able to do with this football club. But the football club as a whole, and Mark Ashton and everyone deserves credit for getting it right, and also doing one of the hardest things, which is not having control of their own situation. If they came in and said, we want things done this way, and we're going to make sure that we're going to sign this player because we want him, not you, and then if you do it like that, then you get situations where it becomes hard. But giving him so much control, a clearly talented manager, the ability to do what he needed to do and say, right, you're the guy in charge, off you go, and make us successful. Yeah, that's why the club deserves a lot of credit too. And it's just the perfect marriage, isn't it?
It really is. I mean, clearly Kieran deserves the vast majority of the credit for what he's done, but equally, as you say, I would certainly say Mark Ashton deserves a lot of credit for making the appointment in what was a risky, certainly a bad time for Ipswich Town, and a risky appointment in that it's a guy who's never been a manager before, and is in the wider world of football fandom is kind of a relative unknown, and it would have been easy then to pluck a big name, go for someone like Frank Lampard, for example, who was being talked about at the time, and clearly Lampard, history will show, is not had much success as a manager since. And Kieran McKenna has gone on and done what he's done. So yeah, just don't go back and watch the show that we recorded after he was appointed, because the ratings we gave McKenna as an appointment probably haven't aged too well, shall we say? You're on mute, mate.
Can you remember what they are? Go on.
Yes, yeah. I don't think any of us gave it more than like a 7.5 as an appointment.
But that's okay.
That was optimistic. I think we said at the time. I'm optimistic 7.5. But you have to remember, this is a completely unproven guy coming into a football club that was in all sorts of trouble at the time. In terms of the vibes department. The vibes department then was not good at all. So, yeah,
that's also one of the harder things. Like when you're in a club, or when you're at a club that has all these kind of struggles, and there's quite a few of them, often the last thing you want to do is throw a young and experienced manager in. It doesn't work. Whereas you're in a position, let's say that you're a club that's underperforming. A lot of teams, especially in the lower end of the football league, go, right, let's go get Steve Bruce, let's go get Ian Holloway, let's go get someone that has the experience of managing at the top level, and we have kind of a track record and basis to appoint them. And that's where the risk comes in, because bringing in a young and inexperienced manager at a top club, that's where it's risk free. That's where you can say, well, there's a platform for you to kick on no matter what, because we've got the players and we've got the backing, all that kind of stuff to come in when there was so much negativity. Someone that's never managed a senior football team before, that's a really hard thing to do, and something that probably doesn't get recognised enough, I'd say.